Flosstube. My name is Becca, and I am SamBrie Stitches here on Flosstube and Instagram. And this is another special edition of Interview with the Flosstuber. I am very excited to be here today with Nicola. She is Bumble Stitches here on Flosstube. I love her channel. I'm kind of a silent watcher. I haven't really commented too much, but she shows such beautiful projects from samplers to smalls. Beautiful background. We were just talking about that, which I love looking at the backgrounds during people's videos as well. And she occasionally stitches on Ada, which is really cool. That just makes me happy to see few more people stitching on Ada like I do. So, but I'll be linking all her information so you can go check out her channel. But how are you doing today, Nicola?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Becca. Yeah, it's really nice to be here, and I'm loving your background too. Obviously, you've got quite a lot of nature going on, quite a little bit more than I've got. I can't see so many trees behind me, so it looks amazing there. But yeah, it's really good to be here today with you to have a chat with everybody.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so excited. We're going to get to know you a little bit more. So we will just jump into the questions if you're all set.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the first one is, why did you start a Flosstube, and were there any particular motivations?
Well, I used to, on my same channel, I used to always do a knitting podcast. I was an avid knitter for many years, and I did a knitting podcast. For reasons unbeknownst to me, these things just happen. My knitting mojo just upped and went one day. And I really missed doing my videos, but I didn't have any knitting to show anybody. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? But I had, in the meantime, the cross stitch bug had bitten me really hard. And so I thought, I wonder if people would like to see my cross stitch. And I sort of hummed and hawed a bit about, should I do that? Will people want to watch it? I had heard of Flosstube, but I'd never watched it. Mm-hmm. And it sort of went from there, really. I then started watching Flosstube and thought, well, perhaps people would like to see my stitching. So, and with a bit of a nudge from Justin, my fiance, that was why I started my Flosstube, and I love it. Absolutely love doing it now. So really glad that I did.
I've noticed that with like our crafting, those of us that do a few different crafts, that there are those bugs that, kind of bite you, and then all you want to do is that particular craft. So
yes, sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and the cross stitch one, I think, is a really hard biting bug out of all of them.
I've learned that from many people. And it takes up a lot of time too. So, it's good that you have just that set amount of time just for cross stitch. It's hard to balance all the different crafts. So,
yes, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. So this next question is just a subscriber question, and they were wondering if you had a blog of any sort.
No, many moons ago, and I'm going back more years than I can even remember, I used to be a scrapbooker as well in a previous life, and I used to do a blog back in those days, but I couldn't even tell you what I couldn't even find it to log in myself. So, but as far as cross stitching is concerned, no, I don't have a blog, just my Flosstube and my Instagram, of course.
Yeah, I think those are a good way to track them anyways.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So how did you learn to stitch, and how long have you been stitching?
I guess like a lot of people, I'm self-taught. I think out of all the sort of embroidery type crafts, I think cross stitching is, it's pretty basic to get the gist of. And obviously you refine your skill at stitching as you progress. So self-taught would be the answer to that one. And as a child, really, I started cross stitching, back in those days when, there were lots of just little kits. It wasn't the cross stitch, the wonderful world of cross stitch that we have today. So I did stitching sort of probably, sort of childhood, sort of into early teens, and then like a lot of people went away from it. So, but that's how I sort of, it was a long time ago, Becca, far more years ago than I would care to divulge on Flosstube.
Well, yeah, and clearly you've seen how much has changed, because I think I've been stitching for a little over 23-ish years off and on, but seeing how much it's changed in 20 years ago as to now, as far as fabrics and patterns and all that stuff is amazing how it evolved.
Yeah, it is. It's just like, it just blows your mind, doesn't it? The amount of wonderful things, and it blows your mind and your bank balance, all the things that you can,
and get. Flosstube is the other thing that like kills your bank balance because you're enabled by everybody that you watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy. So do you have a favorite project that you've stitched?
I am a little bit of like everyone's good friend Laura the serial starter. I am a little bit of a serial starter, I'm afraid, and I don't have that many things that are finished that I've stitched recently. But the one thing that I've got something that I just want to show you. I stitched this last year. This I finished it into a pillow, and this was a stitch along that was run by the Fat Quarter Shop, and it's one of the first sort of. It was a big project for me to do last year, and I felt really accomplished to get it finished, you know, to finish the stitching and then actually to make it into something was a really big deal for me. So until I get more things finished, I would say this is my favourite thing.
That's a beautiful finish. That made a perfect pillow. It really did.
Yeah, it's
pretty pattern.
It's really cute, but yeah, and no one's allowed to sit on it. So
of course, as it should be.
Just for show. For show. Yeah.
Wow, that is a big accomplishment though.
Yeah, I felt, you know, you do get that's the wonderful thing about, you know, cross stitching lots of crafts. You just get that real sense of accomplishment, and it's nice to feel that you've done something with your free time.
Mm-hmm. Totally get it. I love stitching all the decor pieces and having those out and finished and all that kind of stuff. And I started getting into samplers not too long ago, and I still try to fit the smalls in because they take so long. I like that. Yeah. That finish, that gratification. So
yeah, definitely. I agree.
Yeah. So what do you enjoy most about stitching?
If I was to give you a creative answer, I would say it was the actual act of stitching itself and the accomplishment, as we've just spoken about. If I'm being really, really honest, I think it's buying all the things. I guess it's like a separate kind of hobby on its own. But it's just like, I really like kitting things up. People that watch my channel will know I'm obsessed with having a matching project bag, and I just want to have everything. And to me, that I get a real buzz out of that. That's a huge source of enjoyment for me. Yeah. So yeah, the naughty answer is is buying all the things. But no, actually, it is fun, as you say, being enabled. But yeah, the act of stitching itself, I think there's nothing like it to just completely loosen your mind up. I find that you loosen your body up as well. You tend to find yourself relaxing into your chair, and it's just such a feel-good activity.
Yeah, it definitely is. No, I agree. I don't think anybody has ever answered with the whole buying part of it. I'm not a big fan of kitting up things, but I do like the buying of patterns, I think, the most, just because they're so pretty to look at. May not ever get to them, but they're pretty to look at. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And why not?
Yeah, 100%. Oh, I love that. I know stitching, I take mine everywhere because, if I go on breaks at work, I work retail. So that helps calm me in between the, couple hours that I'm out on the floor. So yeah, definitely a calming activity for sure.
Yes, yeah, I agree. It's a real de-stressing kind of activity.
I love it so much. So we're going to get out of stitching talk a little bit and kind of find out a little bit more about you. And this one is, what's your favorite genre of book or movie?
Well, I don't read as much as I should. It's probably because I haven't tried audiobooks, and you can't stitch or knit and sew and read a book at the same time. Well, I can't. But when I did read, very much into the sort of like the horror genres, people like Stephen King, Clive Barker, authors like that. So I quite like to scare myself. And movies, I'm not really one for sort of rom-coms or chick flicks or anything like that. I like a good war film. I really like film.
Cool.
I like films about like the Second World War and, you know, the Vietnam War and all those kind of things. I really enjoy those kind of films. So yeah, stick a war film on and I'm happy.
I love that because I'm right there with you. Actually, that's my husband and I. That's what we love to watch. Or anything that has to do with like the military or, you know, anything like that. So I love that. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So do you have a fictional place that you would most like to go to?
Yeah, I had a good think about what that would be. I think it would have to be Middle Earth, obviously from the Lord of the Rings book. Not the nasty bits. I wouldn't like to go to Mordor or Mount Doom or any of those nasty, hot, stinky sort of, you know, nasty places with orcs and things like that. But somewhere nice like Hobbiton or Rivendell, you know, where it's just really beautiful. I'd like to go to Rivendell for the day, hang out with the elves. It'd be all wonderful and serene. And then I'd like to go back home to Hobbiton, where they've got all the nice food, all the nice drink, and just sit in my lovely little hobbit house and do my stitching. I think that would be awesome.
That sounds perfect. I think I would want to do my stitching in Rivendell though, because it seems just very like serene and mellow and just beautiful. Just, you know, sitting by an arch.
Yeah, it would work on one of those lovely balconies overlooking a waterfall.
Oh, that's cool. I would like to see an orc though. I mean, not like attacking me or anything, but I think that would be kind of neat to actually see. So
yeah, maybe through some binoculars from your balcony in Riverdale.
From the balcony while you're relaxing and stitching off in the distance.
Yeah.
So if you could choose to do anything for a what would it be?
If I would have the skills to do anything for that day, I think without a doubt I'd like to be a surgeon for a day. My previous job that I did, I was involved in visiting hospitals all over the UK, and on occasion had to go right into the operating theatre or the operating room while a procedure was taking place. And I just think that those guys that do that are just absolutely amazing, and to have those skills and to have that feeling of, you know, completely transforming people's lives and health, and, you know, I think would just be amazing. And I find the whole anatomy and all that kind of thing just fascinating. I love all the hospital programs. So yeah, I think I would be a surgeon for a day.
Wow, that would be amazing. That's another like unique answer that I've heard too. Surgeons are kind of like the miracle workers of that industry, I guess. Wow.
Yeah, no, I just think it would be just to have that, to know what you're doing and to be able to do that. And I don't think job satisfaction can probably get much higher than that.
True.
You know, obviously other medical professionals as well, but I think if I had my choice, it would definitely be surgery. I'd be in surgery for the day.
Huh. That's interesting. I love that.
I wouldn't take my stitching though. Definitely wouldn't take my stitching.
You'd be stitching up anyways. So.
I could cross stitch my patients up.
Yeah, there you go. Instead of however they do it, you know, you could just do the little X's and do your cross stitch to sew them up. So perfect.
Yeah, a few French knots, you know.
I don't know about the French knots. Not a big fan of doing those. So do you happen to have any other hobbies besides cross stitch?
Yes, I do, Becca. It's funny you should ask. I'm a beginner quilter. I class myself as a beginner because I haven't done many quilts and I've still got so much to learn, and I just wish I had more time to devote to it. So quilting is something else I love doing. Knitting I would still class as a hobby. I'm sure it will come back to me. I've still got all my yarn and my needles and patterns and everything. So a knitter. I like gardening, baking. So there's lots of things that I would class as hobbies, but the main two would be cross stitching and quilting at the moment.
Nice. Do you find for knitting that maybe when the weather's cooler out, maybe you decide to pull that back out? I know people who knit usually say that they tend to do it when the weather's, you know, not so warm out.
Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. And when I was knitting all the time, I would sort of knit smaller things when the weather was warmer, like socks and things like that. So you didn't have a big piece of knitting like sitting in your lap while you worked on it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I'm hoping that it will come back. Yeah, and possibly you're right, when the weather gets cooler and you start to think, you know, it's more sort of sweater weather and you want to think about, you know, that kind of sort of coziness, then it does lend itself more to knitting. So yeah, I expect it'll come back soon.
Well, hopefully so, but we're glad that you're just cross stitching right now and doing your
yeah, me too.
Yeah. Someday I would like to learn to quilt. I'm not friends with my sewing machine. I'm sure many people know from watching my videos, but eventually I will learn, because I want to learn to make like the project bags and but the quilts is what I want to learn, to have those around the house and just something that I made. Oh,
they're beautiful. I just think there's so many gorgeous quilts out there, and people are so clever. They're just stunning.
Yeah. It's definitely a talent.
For sure.
Yeah. So this is one of my favorite questions, and it's, how would your friends describe you?
This is a really funny one for me. I don't actually have many friends. I like my own company a lot. And Justin, my fiance, obviously, he's without doubt, he's my best friend. We're friends for, you know, have been friends like forever. So, but I feel really, and it sounds a bit schmaltzy, but I do feel like I've got 7,000 plus friends now that I didn't have before, from all my subscribers. And I know that everyone that has a Flosstube thinks it, but I know that I've got the best subscribers out there. And people say just the sweetest, nicest, kindest things, you know, imaginable. And you know, I can't sit here and say what people say, because I get too embarrassed, you know, when they say nice things and compliment me. But yeah, I guess you'd have to check out with my subscribers to see what my friends would say about me, because I do think they're just like the best friends ever.
Yeah, I agree with that. The comments that the subscribers leave when I'm having a rough day, or if I just need like a little pick me up, it's you just go read the comments. Like that's all that you need. Yeah, the support, the love, and these are people that we may not ever meet in person, but
exactly, I know.
And a relationship.
And the weird thing is, when I first started my Flosstube channel in particular, and the subscriber numbers started increasing, Justin said to me, he said, look, just be aware. He said, YouTube comments are a really funny place. Like, YouTube comments can be really, you know, you might get a bit of criticism or a bit of flack, and you might get some nasty comments and whatever. And apart from the odd spam comment that you can hit straight away and delete, you know, I can honestly say I've never had anyone say anything other than really, you know, kind, generous things to me. And I just think it's such a, you know, it's a really good community.
Yep, I agree. Well, that's amazing. Yeah. So if anybody out there ever needs pick-me-ups, go read through the comments of both of our channels or any Flosstuber's channel.
Yeah.
The comments are amazing. So we thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
So yeah, we do. We really do.
Yeah. They're amazing. They really are. Get back into stitching a little bit. And this one is, how do you prefer to stitch? Do you use a hoop, a Q-snap, a frame? That kind of question.
I don't have a frame. I've tried a Q-snap and I found it was a little bit too deep, and when I held the Q-snap in my hand, it was making sort of this part of my thumb sort of ache after a while. Okay. So I gave up on the Q-snap. I've tried stitching in hand. I would like to be able to master that technique, sort of with the sewing method, but my stitches just don't look tidy enough yet, so I need to persevere with that. So it's a hoop for me that I favour, and I just love popping a hoop onto my fabric, and away I go. I think it makes my stitches nice and neat. I feel comfortable holding it. So yeah, I'm a hoop stitcher.
Nice. Yeah. So you find that the hoop holds it like tight enough? Do you prefer like super tight or just enough to where it's?
No, I like it super tight. I keep a little screwdriver with my stitchy stuff. Actually, it's the little one that came with my sewing machine. So when I need it for my sewing machine, I can never find it because it's with my stitchy stuff. Nice. But yeah, I sort of get it tight by hand, and then I give it a good old till it sort of like squeaks, till the screw squeaks, which is probably snap one of these days. But yeah, I like it really nice and tight.
Nice. Okay. Do you have like a preferred fabric that you lean towards more so? I know you kind of stitch on a lot, but is there a favorite?
I do like the even weaves. I like Lugana. It really depends on the project. From some of my little smalls, those sort of like little Laurie Holt stitch cards I like making. I really like doing those with Ada. Even weave. I love linen. I love the look of linen. And I'm trying to get sort of my counts up a little bit higher because I like the look of the smaller stitches. Mm-hmm. But it takes a bit more concentration. And I think I tend to. Always got a variety of different fabrics in the things that I'm stitching, and I tend to lean towards different things depending on sort of how, if I'm tired and I really want to do some stitching, but I think, I can't sit and look at 36 count tonight. I'll just do something on a 25 count Lugana because it's easier for me to see and feels more relaxing. So yeah, I just love all the fabrics. I want all the fabrics in all the colours.
I hear you.
All the counts, please.
And I know you're a huge fan of the Laurie Holt, all the patterns and everything like that. Yeah. Those do kind of look really, really good on Ada. For some reason, those to me kind of scream Ada for some reason. And I think that they look really good. So that's kind of neat that you stitch, some of those.
Yeah. I think it's just nice to have a variety as well. And I think also when you've got quite a lot of people that are tuning into your Flosstube, I try to be aware that not everyone can, for whatever reason, you might not be able to see the higher counts.
Yep.
You might not feel comfortable stitching on them. You might not, for a whole variety of reasons. You need to make. I think. It's not like a duty as a Flosstuber. I'm not trying to say we've got this grand duty to people, but I think you have to be aware that people have got all different levels of ability and different levels of sight. So you have to try and, to share the love of our hobby, I think to make it accessible to as many people as possible that are starting out in cross stitch. I think it's just really nice to have a lot of different things, Ada and even weave and,
I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. For me, I'm only Ada stitcher. I do have some other fabrics, but I don't know. I'm slowly thinking about getting outside my comfort zone and trying it because so many people that I talk to, in these interviews and everything love the even weave and the linen, and there's not very much just Ada stitchers out there. So it's intriguing. And I think that's a good point. Nobody's ever said that about the channel, and it would help me branch out, I guess, to try different fabrics to kind of show more people the differences in them. So I like that. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely.
So do you have a favorite place that you've traveled, and did you bring stitching along when you went?
Well, I became a stitcher with a capital S, I would say back last sort of January, February 2020. And of course, we couldn't go anywhere. So when I was a stitcher, I was at home really most of the time. I started dabbling a little bit in cross stitch at the latter end of 2019 when I was still working. And as I said, part of my job was going to hospitals. So I was going to hospitals all over the UK and Scotland and Wales. So wherever I went, I just took my stitching with me because I'd stay overnight in a hotel or, so I was always had my stitching with me. So at that point in time, my stitching was going, it went to Edinburgh, it went to Bath, it went to York, it went to Wales, to Snowdonia or to Cornwall, wherever I happened to be. I've got some very well-travelled projects back from those days. So you know, and prior to that, if it wasn't cross stitching, it was knitting. I always had to do something creative every day. So wherever I travelled, so I've stitched in some beautiful spots. I can definitely say that.
Well, that's really neat, because then you can kind of look at your pieces and remember where you were or what you were doing, and that has the memories attached, which is I'm a huge fan of pieces that have memories attached to them. That makes them
I think if you create something, as I said, be it knitting, you know, embroidery, cross stitching, anything like that, any sort of handwork, I think you definitely you sew, or you know, whatever it is, those memories into a piece, and you look back and you think, oh yeah, I stitched that when I was, you know, on holiday there, or when I was there, and you know, it's great.
So what can you not do without for your stitching, like your favorite go-to must-have?
If I'm on a high account, then it's definitely my magnifying light. Totally dependent on that. So hence why I would only do high account stitching if I'm sitting in my stitch spot on my sofa with my light over me and my magnifier. Other than that, I would say what would it be? I'm pretty addicted to the I'm going to throw Laurie Holt's name out again. The little Laurie Holt the little design balls, the bitty boards, the small ones. Because I just keep one on the arm of the sofa next to me, and it has my scissors on, it has a needle minder with various needles on, it has a long quilting pin for counting, the loose threads, you know, like or sort of orts and bits like that on it. So everything goes on there, and then I know where it is, and it doesn't fall off. And so it's sort of like, you know, an odd, not a necessity, but it's something that I would feel really odd to not stitch with it being there.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat accessory, especially since it holds kind of every basic thing that you really need. So I think that's a good must-have for sure.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a fun one. I like to see how everybody's like brain works when it comes to this, but how do you decide on what you're going to work on next?
Oh, well, it's whatever Flosstube I've just watched. If I've just watched a Flosstube and somebody's starting something, I'm like, oh my God, I need to stitch that. I must start that. Get online, buy that pattern.
Yep.
At the moment, I'm pretty much driven by quite a few stitch-alongs. So obviously, I'm doing Laurie Holt Mania for May. So I'm just doing all of my Laurie Holt stitching projects. I just flip from thing to thing, Becca. There's no grand plan, and then I just move on to the next shiny thing. I'm like a magpie, the next shiny object, and I'm there.
And I think that's how a lot of us work, is whatever kind of calls to us, or that's basically it, or, you know, suggested from another video is still calling to us. So, and I think that's probably the best way to stitch, because it's stitch on whatever is making you happy at the time. So
yeah, that's right. I don't think you should ever stitch anything out unless you were doing it as a deadline, that it was a gift for somebody, for example. But other than that, I mean, you know, just stitch what's in your heart to stitch that day. Just do it and enjoy it.
Love it. That's great. So we are on to the last question, and this is my most favorite, and it's, what is the best thing that has happened to you, I would say recently, within the past few years?
In the last few years, right? Okay. Can I have more than one? Of
course.
I would say it's buying our home that we're in now. Justin and I, we were in rental accommodation before we moved here, so we bought our own home together last year. So that was just amazing. Finding cross stitching again, because it has genuinely brought me so much happiness. So that would be, and more recently, getting my job, because it was a little bit worrying with the pandemic. I got made redundant from my job, and it's a worry, isn't it? You know, when you're looking for a job. So to get a job and to have been made so welcome in my new job, I've got some really fantastic colleagues. We even have a dog in our office.
so cool.
Yeah, our boss brings his dog to work about 3 times a week. So yeah, we get the dog to just comes mooches around the office and just has a little pet and wanders off. So that's really cool. But yeah, I consider myself to be a very lucky person. I've very privileged in many ways. As I say, to have my home, to have Justin, our daughters, everyone in our families. I feel very content with my lot.
That's awesome. And the really neat thing out of that is you did that all pretty much during the pandemic, which is a crazy, scary time of being, locked down and unknowing what's going on. And you got a house and a new job and all that during all the craziness is amazing.
I know. Well, that's what gave me the grey hairs, you see. This gave me my natural highlights.
Yeah.
It's all these stressful things. But
yeah, that's a huge, huge accomplishment. Anytime, but during the time, that we've been through for the past year is amazing. So congratulations on all of that.
Thank you. But I think, I guess I just look at it. I just take each curveball that life throws at me one at a time and just deal with it. And as long as as I said, I keep saying it, as long as I've got my family, I've got Justin, our girls, my mum is amazing. My mum helps us so much with so many things. As long as I've got that sort of support behind me, I feel like I can do anything, really.
Love it. That's the perfect way to end the interview because that's amazing. So no words on that one. Love it. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know today was crazy. We talked before the interview, so I appreciate you kind of sitting down and taking time.
It's been my pleasure.
I was very excited when you said yes. So.
No, me too. I was excited that you asked me. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll say bye to everybody on Flosstube.
Bye, everybody. See you soon.